Next panel, we have Henry Heinemann from Lysk, Marek Majkowski from Lysk, and Jack Wang from Project A. And they're introducing Lysk.ai. There we go.
Awesome. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
I'll sit here, actually. Yeah, it's easy. It's a lid. Last panel of the day, so thank you for being here with us. But if you're here, the title is not... that should say K. OK, we'll fix that later. If you're here, then you definitely want to hear about voice AI, and specifically voice AI in the military, which is very much an emerging space. So just a quick intro on myself. I'm a partner at Project A. I lead our day-to-day investing in everything deep tech and defense tech. We're investors in companies like Quantum Systems, Stark, Axe Robotics, and a few more companies. But before that, though, we're very proud to present Marek and Henry. And this is actually the first time that we talked about what Lysk does in public. So please give a quick introduction of yourselves and maybe what Lysk does in your own words, and the history of Lysk, how it was formed. Please.
Awesome. I'll go first. So yeah, the company name is not that. It's Lysk, L-Y-S-K. And we started about a year ago. Prior to starting the company, Marek and I both worked at a US cloud provider called Cloudflare, cybersecurity and networking company. And then we thought it would be a logical continuation of that to go into defense. I'm German originally, Marek is Polish, and then there's a third co-founder, not Jack, who is French. And so our company is based between Paris and Warsaw.
So it's three co-founders, and we believe our skill sets are complementary. So we decided to do the startup. So we are building it for last year. We have our team is growing, our product is growing. The journey of creating a startup is very interesting.
So you guys do, from the website, a very minimalistic website, mind you, because we're kind of still in stealth. You talk about voice AI, which today, to most of the audience here, myself included, we think voice AI, we think 11 Labs, we think avatars talking to us right on our phones. We might even think ChatGPT talking back. But in the sense of a military setting, what is that? What do you guys do day to day with your customers? And sort of, I don't know if you talk about who your customers are publicly, but anything you can share on that.
So as Henry mentioned, we, both me and Henry, worked at a big cybersecurity company from the US. And we are very used to our daily civilian lives of using iPhones, dictating to the phone, or talking to ChatGPT these days in a car or in any other environment. And we were asking ourselves a question, are these tools available for non-civilian use cases? And the answer is no, and no for not obvious reasons. So that's why we are embarking on the voice direction, because for us it's natural that we should be able to communicate with the machines in a new, modern, voice-enabled way. And for the big hardware, for machinery, for how the military communicates, they are very, very far away from that, both in the mindset, both technically, both operationally, both on the physical hardware as they are calling, but they still don't have the capacity to analyze the voice. So we believe this is a great place to actually help them.
Is that the same across the board? I know you guys are working with the French army, for example, talking to the German military. You took multiple trips to Ukraine, looking at the problems they're facing. Is there a difference in the hardware, I guess, infrastructure across these different countries in voice AI, and who's doing better, who's not doing as well? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not here to shame individual countries, but yes, obviously some are doing significantly better than others. Ukraine famously uses a lot of public cloud infrastructure to run their digital tools, both for the government and sort of public administration and military use cases. Our previous employer is also quite active in that area. But in the NATO direction, yes, some armies have significant compute capabilities that others just don't have. And that's where we see the biggest differences to actually applying voice AI use cases. It's great that some general of some European army says, oh, we need to do AI and we can deploy Whisper or some other technology that's open source and sort of solve these use cases. That's great theory, but then in practice, when the deployment platform is a 10-year-old laptop without any GPUs, it just, quite frankly, doesn't work. And so, yeah, we've seen some governments being very open and saying, hey guys, we don't have this. You are the experts, just do whatever you think is best. And that's awesome if we have a carte blanche to deploy modern hardware and then deploy the software on that. That works really well. And others will just be adamant that we have to use what they have in place, which is just insufficient. And so then in those use cases, that's unfortunately not a good fit to work together.
What are the most obvious, problems that you solve with voice AI today in the military from your experience that you're working on?
So
more tactical things that you do.
there are a ton of ways that voice AI is being used in the world in general. Marek mentioned a couple of use cases. We are currently mostly focusing on what I would call bureaucracy, or just generally making information systems be better connected to one another. And so there are many, many use cases where humans are used to create reports by hand. And there was another presentation earlier where someone talked about the ratio between Ukrainian drone pilots to general staff. And so it depends on the battalion you look at, but in some cases it's like 10 to 1. So you'll have 10 people supporting one pilot. And what do these people do? Well, many of them are just doing paperwork and doing reporting. And you see that in all the armies in different ways and shapes and forms. And so one place we see voice AI play an important role is in improving that paperwork process. And so essentially we're doing process optimization. We're helping people just work more efficiently, and use cases where a lot of manual labor is going into transcribing communications, for example, or literally copy pasting emails from one spreadsheet into another, like all of these kinds of things we can help with.
I think the value proposition of what we are doing is fairly obvious. It's obvious for people that you can dictate and this actually will work. And when we are talking to soldiers and if I tell them that now you can have a stream of text on the screen, you don't need to type it, they are odd. And it's like, obviously that should be like that, but it's still not, so it really helps.
Now, moving sort of at a high level away from just voice AI, but let's say large language models or foundational models in general, and we know companies like Mistral, for example, even Anthropic today, ChatGPT, OpenAI, for example, work with various military infrastructure, right? Of course, for you guys, student, given the time you guys spent, have been largely not so much in the military data centers, but on the edge, quote unquote. What have you guys found? So not necessarily voice AI, but just the capability of deploying these foundational models, language models today, anywhere in the military, not just voice, but do you think Europe or European MODs as a whole will be ready for that in the next year, 2 years, 3 years?
Absolutely
Best guess?
not. Absolutely not. We are far, far, far away.
How long? Like best guess?
Well, this is what we are here to solve. So deployment, so where the models actually run, is one pillar of our strategy. This is one of the bigger questions we are asking ourselves. And again, depending on the customer, it's different. Some forces that we were working with, they have an abstraction of like servers and racks, and they know how to deal with at least hardware. Some are far away and they only get the off-the-shelf boxes they have no access, no visibility into. Similarly with the models, while there are plenty of off-the-shelf models that you can use, and how hard can it be? You can hack the project over the weekend. Then it turns out that the actual deployment is fairly sophisticated, mostly because the way of communicating is just different. It's a push button, typically push button radio, and the models are trained on radio or YouTube or films. It's a different way of communicating. Then there is plenty of language very specific to different forces. And then finally, support for languages and doing things on premise is not super common. So actually taking the off-the-shelf models is not always feasible.
Yeah, and I guess in addition to that, the hardware deployment aspect is a significant hurdle. It's great that you can do this on your phone, but the army isn't using an iPhone. They're using radios, in some cases fairly old ones. So in France, the main radio being used is PR4G by Thales. Yeah, they are introducing more modern digital versions. Similarly, in Germany, the project to deploy digital radio is still not rolled out fully. And so you have really, really old tech, and you need to somehow bridge that to the modern world. And it's not impossible to do that, but you need to actually go and do the work, and you need to go and do the work for every single client individually over and over again. You can't just buy the cable to plug your military radio into your laptop off of Amazon. Like, you have to make them yourself.
I guess to close off the panel, would you talk a little bit sort of, we don't come across French, Polish companies very often, or startups very often especially, and the diversity of the founding team and so forth. Would you give us a bit of an overview on just like, how many folks on the team, the offices, how you guys work day to day between two offices? Like sort of, what's the setup like?
I think our unique strength is that the 3 co-founders are from 3 different countries, so for Germany, Poland, and France, and we are using that to our advantage. We want to be perceived as a European NATO company, and we are doing all we can to succeed.
Yeah, so we're working across 2 locations. It's very important for us to be on site for a variety of practical and also security reasons. We think by just traveling around a lot, which we have to do to see our customers anyway, we can continue to build a really strong culture. And on top of that, as Marek was just saying, it's really important, I think, for the future of European defense tech that we have more actual European countries rather than siloed individual entities that are just copycats of one another. Like, if each country has its own drone company, that might be interesting for a sovereignty of France and Germany, but it's a bit of a shame because if these companies would all work together, they'd probably be much more successful. And similarly, if we look at the cloud sovereignty development in Europe, people keep saying, oh, we need to have a EU competitor to AWS. It's not happening, I'm sorry. And instead, what would be extremely helpful would be more initiatives that bridge the individual sovereign cloud systems each country has. And the way to do this, we believe, is, again, by positioning ourselves as a European entity. So that's sort of the goal of what we're trying to do.
All right, thank you. In that case, I think we can end the panel a little bit earlier. You guys can go to drinks and have closing remarks and so forth. I don't know if we're taking questions a bit of time. Anybody have any questions, actually? Wait, please, go ahead.
Hi. How much have you guys raised?
We haven't announced that yet.
I'll say that Project A led the round together with Expeditions. We also have the Angels that are founders of Cloudflare and
11 Labs,
actually.
Quantum Systems.
And Quantum Systems, and a few other folks in our ecosystem.
And
So,
when are you announcing your first customers?
We will as soon as we get their permission.
And are you going to be launching new services?
sorry, are you a journalist?
Yes.
All right, cool. We're in stealth, please keep that in mind. We will announce everything in due course, but we will share some advance with you, please.
When are you actually coming out of stealth?
As soon as we have the permission of our customers to talk about what we're doing publicly.
Great.
So soon, in the next few months.
It should be soon, yeah. Happy to stay in touch.
I'll fund you after.
I saw that coming a little bit. That's okay, sorry. Done this enough times. I'm like, oh yeah, she must be a journalist, which is great. Any other questions? If not, we can call it a day. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.